is there a growing rift between President Trump and his one-time first friend, Elon Musk? The SpaceX and Tesla CEO expressed his disappointment with the president's sweeping tax and spending bill that passed the House and is currently facing some headwinds in the Senate. This is what Musk told CBS News.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
All right, with us now, Amisha Cross, the Democratic strategist, and Mark Short, the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. And Mark, this is the president's entire legislative agenda right now, this tax and spending bill. And Musk has been critical of the president's tariff policy, which is basically his entire economic agenda. That's a big part of what President Trump is pushing, that Elon Musk is now very publicly saying, I'm not for.
Sure, John. I do think, look, the sausage making can look like the big, beautiful bill isn't so beautiful. I think we have to keep in mind that in the House, the margin for Republicans is so small that I think Mike Johnson doesn't get due credit for people who said he wouldn't be able to get the votes to be speaker. He wouldn't be able to avoid a shutdown. Now he got this tax bill through. And when you do that, sometimes you have to give favors to different constituencies to get it. I imagine the Senate will probably whittle it down some. But, there's parts of this, I'm very excited to see the tax bill moving forward. I think the president's trade agenda is indefensible.
I'll say it as a purely political endeavor, what Mike Johnson did was impressive.
Yeah.
Again, objectively getting that through was an impressive political feat. But to have Musk criticizing it on its substance, and this is not some minor policy that the president is pushing. This is his entire legislative policy.
Sure, and I could pick apart pieces of it that I don't like either, John. I think a lot of Republicans could. I think that some of the expansions of the SALT deductions is egregious. But
careful, you're in New York.
I know,
saying that.
I know. But at the same time, I think the consequence of a $5 trillion tax increase on the American people is too much for Congress not to get this done.
Amisha, I want to play some sound just to stay on Elon Musk for a second, because Musk, it was a couple weeks ago where he said he was going to get out of the political giving business, and he had a soundbite that's been played, but the end of it I want you to pay attention to. Listen.
In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough. Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I do not currently see a reason.
It was that last line. I do not currently see a reason. Now, I don't have any particular insider sources inside Musk world, but I do have my eyes and ears. And that sounded like he was saying he doesn't like what he is seeing right now in politics, particularly from the White House, which he's been so supportive of.
Well, I think there are two things at play here. As we can all recall, when Elon Musk went to Wisconsin a couple months ago, that blew up in his face really badly. The Elon Musk who's able to showcase his money, that is his calling card when it comes to primary and creating challengers for Republicans who don't side with him in the Trump administration. He is making sure that people know that he's still there, that he still has a certain level of influence, but he's also trying to reel in some of the blow that he got, not only from investors at Tesla and some of those who are on the board, but also watching his own approval ratings tank. And I think that for him, that was a big hit. He doesn't agree with the big, beautiful bill. There are several parts of it that he finds problematic. But I also think that the big, beautiful bill, to Mark's point, is going to be significantly different by the time that it gets through the Senate. For Elon Musk, I think that some of this is personal. He has seen a strained relationship between him and Trump based on some basic disagreements on policy issues, but he's also someone who cares about his bottom line. And he doesn't agree with the moves that Trump specifically has taken when it comes to these tariffs.
We begin this morning with Elon Musk's disappointment as the tech billionaire is stepping away from politics. He's not shying away from commenting on his work with Doge and President Trump's sweeping tax and spending cuts package. Despite spending almost $300 million to help get Trump and GOP congressional candidates elected last year, Musk now makes it clear he's no fan of President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Joining us now here in the Situation Room, CNN anchor and chief domestic correspondent Phil Mattingly. Phil, his comments could put him at very serious odds with the president.
Yeah, it quite literally does put him at odds with the president. Obviously, the president and the White House pushing very hard to get this cornerstone of their legislative agenda, not just through the House, which they narrowly did last week, but also through the Senate. And it underscores that it's a very, very delicate moment for what is the central piece of legislation, not just for the president's border and defense policies, but also, of course, for his tax cuts reauthorization and the cornerstone of his economic plans. I think what this underscores is Musk, now out of the White House, at least on a regular basis, is reverting back a little bit to where he was before he entered the White House. Remember, Wolf, in the spending bill at the end of last year, his opposition almost derailed that continuing resolution. He got crosswise with the administration on immigration issues as well. He mostly kept his personal opinions to himself on bigger policy issues for the last 3 or 4 months. Now that he's out, he's kind of stepping away a little bit, seems that he's weighing back in. That's problematic for 2 reasons. One, he still has a significant amount of influence. Obviously spent nearly $300 million to help elect President Trump in 2024, has spent a lot of money on other Republican candidates as well. But more importantly, it's the issues that he was pointing out, which is the issue of the deficit, which, Wolf, as you know better than anybody, in the Senate is particularly problematic, where senators like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul are saying the House bill, even though they got it across the finish line, simply does not cut enough given where deficits and debts are right now.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the Senate. That will be critical indeed. What else did Elon Musk say about Doge and its mission?
What's fascinating about this is Musk, I think, was in a very reflective moment. He's done a number of interviews over the course of the last 24 hours as he kind of returns full-time to Tesla, to SpaceX, saying basically he's back to the sleep in the manufacturing plant, work 24/7 on his company, something investors very much like. If you look over the course of the last couple of days, Tesla stock has shot up. But he also underscored the difficulty that Doge faced in its opening months. We all saw the kind of move fast and break stuff theory of the case that they brought into the government. But Musk saying that Doge was basically becoming a whipping boy for everything at one point, saying they were getting blamed for things that they weren't actually involved in. One thing I would note, the Wolf, and this is important for people to understand, there's this kind of broad perception that because Musk is leaving, Doge's mission is over, or what Doge is actually working on in the government is no longer happening. That's not the case. We've reported about how really they've been integrated. Doge officials have been integrated throughout the federal government, and they've risen higher and higher in terms of their political positions that they hold. They're still very much in effect. And Musk makes that point in some of these interviews, including with the Washington Post, saying that they're maybe going to have smaller ambitions, but they're still very much in place and they're still very focused on a mission.
All right, Phil Mattingly.